Today we're going to be reading Simple Machines. How do simple machines help people do work? Vocabulary: work, simple machine, lever, fulcrum. Work. Work is the use of force to move an object from one place to another. A simple machine has few or no moving parts. This wheelbarrow is a simple machine. A lever is a bar that pivots or turns on a point that does not move. This fixed point is called the fulcrum. A hockey stick is one kind of lever. Fulcrum, lever. Reading focus and skill, main idea, and details. A main idea is what the text is mostly about. Details tell more about the main idea. Look for details about simple machines and levers. Work and simple machines. We use the word work every day, but in science this word has a special meaning. Work is the use of force to move an object from one place to another. The object must move in the same direction as the force used to move it. Lifting a box is work, but carrying a box is not work. That's because the box moves sideways with you as you carry it. The girl does work to lift the dog. We use machines to help us do work. A simple machine is a machine with few or no moving parts. You apply just one force to make a simple machine work. The wheelbarrow is a simple machine. The boy lifts the handles and the pile of leaves goes up. He does the same amount of work as lifting the leaves by hand, but he uses less force. The simple machine makes work easier to do. How does a simple machine like a wheelbarrow change the way work is done? The boy uses a wheelbarrow to lift leaves. Seesaw, lever and fulcrum. A lever is a bar that pivots or turns on a point that does not move. This fixed point is called the fulcrum. A seesaw is one kind of lever. The board of the seesaw is the bar. The point in the middle of the fulcrum. The point in the middle is the fulcrum, When you push down on one end, the other end goes up. A wheelbarrow and a broom are two kinds of levers. Find the lever and fulcrum in this hand truck. A pry bar is used to lift nails. Lever, fulcrum. A pry bar is a lever too. You can use it to pry a nail out of a board. You pull down on one end. The nail at the other end moves up. The pry bar makes the work easier. After all, you couldn't pry the nail loose with just your hands. Tell why a pry bar is a lever. Review. Complete this main idea statement. Number 1. A blank has few or no moving parts and needs just one force to make it work. Complete the details statements. Number 2. A simple machine makes work blank to do. Number 3. A lever is a bar that turns on a fixed point called a blank. Lesson 2. How do a pulley and wheel and axle help people do work? Vocabulary: pulley, wheel and axle. Wheel, axle. A wheel and axle is a simple machine that has a wheel and an axle that turn together. A doorknob is an example of a wheel and axle. Pulley. A pulley is a wheel with a line around it. This simple machine makes it easier to lift or move things. Focus skill. Reading focus skill. Main idea and details. A main idea is what the text is mostly about. Details tell more about the main idea. Look for details about pulleys and wheel and axles. Pulleys. A pulley is a wheel with a line wrapped around it. The line may be a cord, a rope, or a chain. Small pulleys are used to raise shades. Large pulleys are used to lift machines and other heavy objects. Like all simple machines, a pulley changes the way work is done. It changes the direction of the force. If you pull down on one end of the line, the other end goes up. Pulley. Pulley. A single pulley changes only the direction of the force. Adding pulleys can lower the force needed to do work. You use less force, but you have to pull a greater distance. You use groups of pulleys to lift heavy loads. For example, a mechanic can use a large group of pulleys to lift an engine out of a car. Focus skill. Tell how a single pulley changes the way work is done. Pulley. This man is using a large group of pulleys to increase his lifting force. Wheel and axles. A wheel and axle is made of a wheel and an axle joined together. An axle is a bar on which the wheel turns. To be a simple machine, these parts must turn together. When you turn the wheel, the axle turns with it. A faucet is a wheel and axle. When you turn the handle, the axle turns, but you use less force than if you turn just the axle. This makes work easier. A faucet has a wheel and an axle that turn together. Wheel, axle. A salad spinner is another wheel and axle. The basket is the wheel. The crank is the axle. When you turn the axle, the basket spins. You have to move the axle just a short distance to move the outside edge of the basket a greater distance. You use more force to turn the crank, but you don't have to move it very far. Focus skill. Tell what a wheel and axle must do to be a simple machine. A salad spinner is a wheel and axle. Wheel, axle. Review. Focus skill. Complete this main idea statement. Number 1. A pulley and a wheel and axle are both blank. Complete these detail sentences. Number 2. A single blank makes work easier by changing the direction of the force you must use. Number 3. The two parts of a wheel and axle are joined so they always move blank. Lesson 3. How do other simple machines help people do work? Vocabulary: inclined plane, screw, wedge. An inclined plane is a slanted surface such as a ramp. Ramp. Threads. A screw is a post with an inclined plane wrapped around it. A wedge has two inclined planes put back to back. A wedge is used to split or cut things. Focus skill. Reading focus skill. Main idea and details. A main idea is what the text is mostly about. Details tell more about the main idea. Look for details about inclined planes, screws, and wedges. Inclined planes. There are two ways to get this boat onto the trailer. One way is to lift it straight up. The other way is to use a boat ramp, which is an inclined plane. An inclined plane is a slanted surface. It is another example of a simple machine. An inclined plane changes the way work is done. It changes the amount of force. It also changes the direction of the force. The boat travels farther, but it takes less force than lifting it straight up. A boat ramp is an inclined plane. A hill is an inclined plane. Look at these bikers. Both ride up inclined planes to get to the top, but one bike path is much steeper than the other. The steeper path is shorter, but the rider must pedal harder. The rider on the less steep path uses less force, but the rider must travel farther. Focus skill. Tell how an inclined plane changes the way work is done. Which inclined plane is longer? Which takes more force to climb? Screws. A screw is a post with threads wrapped around it. These threads are an inclined plane that curls around the post. A drill bit is an example of a screw. By turning the bit around, you use less force than pushing the bit straight into the wood. A nut and bolt are also examples of screws. Their threads slide along each other. The nut and bolt keep two pieces of wood together. Focus skill. What is a screw? Where are the threads on this drill bit? A nut and bolt are both screws. Wedges. Like screws, wedges also use inclined planes. Let me start over. Like screws, wedges also use inclined planes. A wedge is two inclined planes put back to back. You know that an inclined plane changes the direction of a force. A wedge does this too. When you push down on a knife to cut an onion, the two parts of the onion move sideways, away from each other. Focus skill. Tell how a wedge is like an inclined plane. A knife is a wedge. Focus skill. Review. Complete this main idea statement. 1. The inclined plane, screw, and wedge are all blank. Complete these detailed sentences. Every inclined plane is a blank surface. Number 3. The threads of a screw are really an blank wrapped around a post. Now, our worksheet today. Write the missing words in each sentence. Use the words from the word bank. Axle, fulcrum, push, threads has been marked out. Distance, inclined plane, ramp has been marked out. Wedge, effort has been marked out. Lever has been marked out. Rod, work has been marked out. Force, pulley, screw, and wrapped. Number 1, you are doing work if you use a blank to move an object over a distance. Number 2, a lever is a bar that pivots around a fixed point called a blank. Number 3, a single fixed blank does not change how much effort is needed to lift things. Number 4, the blank in a wheel and axle is a blank that is attached so both parts move together. Number 5, it is easier to blank a box up a ramp than to lift it. Number 6, a blank is an inclined plane that is wrapped around a post. Number 7, the more threads a screw has, the greater the blank the wood must move up. Number 8, a blank is made of two blank planes back to back.